I was forced to go hiking with my sister-in-law. It was supposed to be a romantic getaway for me and my hubby. Well, get this. I had a severe allergic reaction in the middle of the night, and my husband had to rush me to the nearest hospital. The problem was, my sister-in-law was nowhere to be found. Apparently, she was hiking to the top of a mountain so she could take pictures of the moon. Well, we didn't have time to tell her, and there's no cell phone reception up there. So we had to leave her. Well, you guys will not believe what happened to her while we were gone. I'd say that the worst part of my husband is his sister, Queenie. My sister-in-law, aka one of the worst human beings to ever exist in this world. Ever since I met him, she's been a rock in my shoes, calling me uglier than hell, names like tin teeth, can teeth, fatsy, or even, well, ugly Betty. I mean, I took off my braces years ago, but it's like she can't get rid of the past. I know, I'm a little chubby, and I'm not the prettiest girl, but hey, her brother loves me, and that's enough for me. Still, she's annoyed, spoiled, intrusive, selfish, manipulative, and has their mother in the palm of her hand. At least my husband thinks she's repulsive as such, and I think that if he thinks the contraire, I would not bother to marry him in the first place. Now, why am I telling you all this? Because this, quote, I hate my sister-in-law will go to the next level as I explain myself a bit better. My life is going to be a mess. Well, not literally a mess, but my job's way too demanding for me to have spare time. So, as my husband, I work at a newspaper center, and he's the manager of one of the most prestigious hotels in the city, so our times, they don't always match. That means no time for lovey-dovey. That's why we appreciate our moments together, since they are the only times when we can love each other properly. The way that we want. And that goes along with one of the most important things in our life and the main reason we decided to hang out together in the first place. Camping. You see, we met each other when we were teenagers for a group of common friends who liked to go camping. To go to the mountains for a night or two and enjoy the wonders of nature. It's just as magical as one might think. I mean, the green of the landscape, the sound of the small animals, the bushes and trees, dancing in the wind. I fell in love with nature as a young camping enthusiast, and so did my husband. I still remember the first time we went camping together. I was nervous because to me, he was the prettiest boy around, and the only reason I did not fully appreciate the wonders of nature. So, I asked a friend to have his phone number. One thing kind of led to another, and before you know it, we were the most well-known camping couple in the zone. At first, it was a mutual friend thing, but when we took a moment to discuss camping together, alone? Well, I'll just say, my heart was racing faster than the speed of light. But I said, not. Oh yeah, I know, I'm a loser. Can you believe it? I said no to my dream boy, but it's because I was nervous about being alone with him. I was young, influential, and every time I discussed that boyfriend-girlfriend idea, people used to tell me a lot of over-the-top things. I won't go into details, I'll just say, I rejected him the first time. Not the second time, though. That's when passion finally knocked at the door and I said, all aboard. It was truly magical, beyond my expectations. And it was just for a little small tiny factor. It did not happen. Nothing, not anything at all. He was a true gentleman, and we only cared to be together for a night in the wild. We slept, hugged, and woke up as the happiest couple in the world. I could not believe it. My dream boy and I were finally together, and that's when our relationship started. Just always putting camping as our main course, we survived the 6 or 9 month stage and beat the crap out of the dullness of monotony. up to the point when just 5 years after that we were getting married in a small yet beautiful ceremony near a koi pond. Nature brought us together and saw us seal our love. But, there's always a but, not all stories end so well. Or at least I don't think this will end anytime soon. When I met his family, I could not be more thrilled. It was a huge step in the relationship, and I thought it was about, to faint. But I didn't faint. What happened was that I wanted to choke that little piece of hell he calls baby sister. Sorry if I change subjects so radically, it's just that I can't fully express to you how hard it's been to deal with that girl over the years. She's 16 now, but her mentality has grown in ways I find interesting. It's like she knows she's annoying in every sense of the word, and some people have told her that. We have a friend that always speaks her mind out and says, "My gosh, girl, where's your off button?" But she refuses to change. When someone, at least in my case, says something negative about you, like, quote, "Your breath stinks, you're kind of lazy, do you even clean your room?" your mind must enter into a state where it says, "Dude, you better put your pants on and change." But I think she ignores that little voice in her head. As if someone says something negative about her, she tries to double it down twice as bad as before. My husband and I are a very young couple, but we've had bad luck in some aspects, like, for example, having our own house. It's now ours as such, but it was from an uncle of my husband. He died a couple years ago and gave his house to my husband, and now we had a place to start calling home. But there were troubles with Queenie. Right off the bat, she said if she could move out with us, and that was a bombastic no. She yelled, she screamed, she pleaded, demanded, and begged, but our answer was final, and it was one of the few occasions where even their mother gave us the reason, saying that she was too young to live like that. My mom even got a little bit concerned about me and my husband leaving the nest to live together, but we had to endure all those, "But why? I deserve a house too. Oh, adopt me, Fatsy, please." And I just wanted to pop her eyes out. Since then, we've been able to have a little more tranquility in our lives. Let's see. It's not easy to be a young couple with a house at such a young age, and much less with our job so complex. To get to the position we are in, it was years of intense dedication and effort. It's not for nothing that my husband is the hotel manager, and we are not in a position to have children, much less a teenager who thinks the whole world belongs to her. Even though we can now just enjoy a little more intimacy, she's still there like a tick, trying to find any excuse to hang out with us, and I know some would probably see it as, cute, but we don't. She even uses her mother to get into our lives. One time, we had to go to a friend's birthday, and Queenie decided to show up out of nowhere. Not only that, but she showed up after we arrived and started saying she thought it was a free invitation party, which it wasn't. And yes, that complicated things a bit for the birthday boy. We could not apologize enough, and I'd given all this context because, now things got serious. Because our lifestyle, there are a few times when my husband and I can be together, and the practice of camping has become less and less. However, when we got engaged, we made a promise to each other that at least a couple times a year we would be going back to the mountains where we met. Just to keep the flame alive and keep things a-going. That's worked for us for quite some time, and although we did not talk about it for most of the year, a month before the trip we started to get overly excited, planning down to the smallest detail, and the next trip was going to be tomorrow. And I say was, because I don't know if it's going to happen now. I've written almost 2,000 words just to tell you that, as a rare thing. Today my sister-in-law just arrived at the house uninvited, saying she's going to accompany us on our mountain outing. If you're confused, we are more so. My husband Well, he's been apologizing because he thinks it was him who told his sister or his mother about our next outing. Something we never do because of this exact risk of this scenario. And indeed, it happened. We can't just dismiss her like that, because it's already late and she can't go home in time. Nor can we postpone the trip because it's one of the few times where my husband and I's schedule actually sync together. Well, we're going to have a weekend together. The more I think about the situation, the more I realize that there's no other option left but to take my sister-in-law with us. The more I just think about it, the more this whole situation bothers me. It's been about 8 months now that we can't go out, and we've been looking forward to this for so long, only to be ruined by that insufferable child, and I'm writing this before bed just to try to oxygenate my mind a bit because I feel that there's one reason that'll keep us from going camping tomorrow. It is the headache and the very powerful migraine I'm having now. My husband and I are very sad about it, but it's the case. Well, we can't go without her. I guess we'll have no choice. We want to believe that our love can do more than that, much, much more than that little girl. What's up, everybody? If you think this is a nightmare so far for OP, I'm here to tell you, you've seen nothing yet. If you guys are new to the channel, my name's Mr. Reddito. We're actually about to close in on 100,000 subscribers, and if you guys want to be a part of that, and if you want daily videos, all you have to do is hit that subscribe button. Thank you so much for the support. I do have multiple updates for you guys, so let's go ahead and see what the heck's going on with that camping trip. Update number 1. Only 2 days. 2 days, and I almost died. I'm writing this from the hospital, about to leave after being discharged. Thank goodness nothing serious ended up happening, since I'm not really a fan of meeting my great-great-grandmother yet. Turns out we mixed up the meals and I ended up eating the red meat. Oh, right. I did not tell you about that. Well, I'm allergic to B12, which is usually found in red meat, beef, and such, and has been the way for most of my life. And the very idea of eating a hamburger can generate terrible psychological discomfort in me. Many people think that's why I eat mostly a vegetarian food, but it's nothing like that. I still eat fish, chicken, and that's why every time I go out, either for work or camping, I prepare my own food separately. My allergy is somewhat acute, and my husband knows this, but when we try to explain this to Queenie, she becomes the most intolerant, ignorant person in the world. Do you know what she says? She says it's a farce, and that there's no such thing as allergies just because she's never seen anyone choke on peanuts or shellfish. She doesn't know how lucky she is to be surrounded by healthy people, but if she has not seen me swallow, well, red as a tomato, it's because I try to take good care of myself. She says all that because she's, quote, allergic to tangerines, but her allergy is super harmless. I mean, her skin just gets a little red and her legs get itchy. So, a couple days ago, when I was finishing packing up the meals, she said that I was selfish for not leaving them any chicken. I'd packed my food separately and told her that they were going to have meat, so there's nothing to complain about. Well, the problem escalated to a level too ridiculous to fully comprehend. I'll just say that the trip was a little off because of that nonsense. Still, we were able to talk a bit on the way, where we drove our van to the desired area. We carried everything we needed to survive. About 3 days in the open, tents for camping, water, food, fire starters, and of course, bugles, so we could listen to our music in the process. It should be noted that I feared for almost every aspect of the trip because of Queenie. From unloading the bugles to eating everything at once. Her and my husband's rations were already small for not having prepared for her arrival. Still, she helped us get settled in, and I think that was the only good part of everything she brought to the trip. Or At least the only helpful part, I should say. Well, the problem started when we decided to have lunch. She went for a walk on her own to the river, and we told her not to stray so far from the place. She likes to take selfies and post 1,000 updates to her more than 2,000 followers on Instagram. How does someone so young have over 2,000 followers? I don't want to give myself an answer, as I'm sure I'll come out traumatized after over-philosophizing. I think it's because of the photos she takes. They're pretty neat, not gonna lie. And she uses a semi-pro camera that makes her go away from her phone from time to time. Besides, that place doesn't have any signals, so phones are like very expensive paperweights. It was then that we took the opportunity to eat in peace as a couple. My husband and I opened the food and realized that as a result of the trip, the rice, vegetables, and protein were mixed until it became a kind of multicolored, incoherent stew. Well, we laughed and said that even that was not as bad as having Queenie next door. At this point, I'm amazed how I can still laugh at the situation. Laughing to keep from crying, I guess. Next time, we need to be more careful with our packaging and even more with whom we let into our plans. This is because at one point, I feel something strange in the food. A familiar taste, but not very pleasant. It was meat. When I saw that the chicken meal had some small pieces of meat in it, we absolutely panicked. I tried to induce vomiting, but it was too late. We could not do anything about it but pack up everything and leave as soon as possible to the nearest hospital. You'll say that I'm exaggerating, but 10 minutes after eating the meal, my hands began to swell violently and my eyes began to water uncontrollably. I did not have much time before I lost consciousness. And when I woke up, well, hours had passed and I was in a hospital room where I was being injected with saline. Next to me was my husband, who was holding my hand and sleeping on the edge of the bed, and I asked him what the heck happened. And he told me about how I had passed out halfway, but that we managed to get there in time to be treated. When I asked him about, well, the trip and Queenie, he told me that he was a bit worried about the situation because he tried to look for her by the river as much as he could, but my condition got rapidly so bad that he just wanted us to leave ASAP. He had left her some things anyways, including a note explaining everything that happened, and he did not try to call her because she should not have a signal in the mountains anyways. But he went out of his way for a while to look for her, and it's getting dark and it's very dangerous to leave her in the wild as she does not have much experience in the field. I think even in bed I knew more about surviving in the wild than she does. Despite everything, I wish that she arrived safe and sound, and that is at least. Update number 2. I have to recapitulate a few things before I can continue, and I apologize for the abrupt interruption in my previous text. It's been about 3 or 4 days since I've been in the hospital, and things went too badly. Between work and this, I'm surprised I have time to write this freely. I interrupted my previous writing because something ugly happened. I was telling you guys about the shock of my allergy and how my husband went to look for his sister in the woods, but I got a call from him saying he was very worried because he tried to call Queenie and heard the phone in the trunk of the car. We had accidentally taken her purse, and that she, well, that's why at no time did we have a call attempt from her. He sped off to look for her, but she was not on the site. He tells me that it was the worst few minutes of his life, where he thought of 1,000 possibilities at once, each one worse than the last, but that only lasted about 20 eternal minutes before he gets a call from his mother, telling him that Queenie had arrived home. Apparently, the girl had traveled just under 2 miles to get back to civilization and hitchhike from there. She alleged, quote, being left to her fate by her brother and his wife. The girl was terrified to death during the entire trip, and it was that we realized that she at no time managed to read the note left for her about our trip to the hospital. It took at least another day before they could discharge me, and then we returned to our house where Queenie and my mother-in-law were waiting for us. She has a key to our home. They were in an absolute rage and almost gouged our eyes out when they saw us, and we had to endure a tremendous scolding while the little girl cried inconsolably, saying that all this time she was going to die because of us. The funny part was when she said, and I quote, "Thank goodness I mixed up the meals so you got what you deserved before you even tried to kill me." I swear on the grave of my future children that mood took another turn after she said that, and we all just went silent, including my mother-in-law, and just gawked at this confession. She was the one who mixed up the foods and mentioned that she has done this for the simple fact that she did not think my allergy was that bad. That, and because she wanted to eat chicken. I mean, that brat almost killed me just because of a craving for chicken. Well, I'm sorry, but that's where I just lost it. I lunged at her and slapped her as hard as I could, and she managed to dodge it. But I grabbed her hair and tried to assault her even more. I don't know what came over me, but I felt such discomfort that if you had asked me, I was on another planet as my wild side lunged at this girl. It was like my only opportunity to unleash all those years of names and insults that she had on me, and realized that this was the only time in my entire life when I can actually fight back, even if it's just physically something I'm not really proud of. My husband and mother-in-law had to separate us, while the girl just kept on begging for a divorce and that she knew I was no good for her brother from the beginning. I would reply that she was to blame for everything and that if we have taken her phone it was by accident because of a problem that she started. It was a scene from a tragic comedy. And the funny thing is that she did not want to accept her guilt. She just turned a deaf ear and claimed that it was all a plot to keep me out of the trip. A trip that she was never invited to. A trip she was never invited on in the first place. I could not believe how obtuse this girl was, because I thought I was even talking to someone who did not understand the most basic things in life, such as the golden rule. Don't kill anyone? The discussion started to escalate when my mother-in-law, she came and started scolding everybody, giving off a false sense of control of the situation, yelling at her son for not being more responsible with his sister. My husband tried to explain as best as he could, but at that point the anger was getting the better of all of us. Even Queenie. My husband and I said that we would take this to the police, and if necessary, even lawsuits would be involved for such offenses. Now, I ask you guys this. Who is right? We did not plan any of this, and it shows us once again that no matter how well you make a plan, there's always going to be stupid people out to ruin it. Update number 3. Although I'm supposed to feel somewhat happy, the truth is that I don't like to be the one who generates conflict between family members, especially when it's not even my own family. I say this because of all the things that happened between my husband, his sister, and his mother. It's been a few months since the whole chicken fiasco, and leaving Queenie in the mountains alone to hitchhike and burn in the sun. But we stand firm in our position, wanting to leave it at that and admit, yes, it was a mistake on both sides, but they did not do that. After the last update, my husband got so angry with him that he even kicked him out of the house, saying that we're not allowed to show up there again, and, of course, this offended them greatly. I spent the next night crying my eyes out at the thought of having a causing of all this discomfort. The thing is that only 2 days later, we were summoned to a meeting with lawyers, where they planned to literally sue us for everything that happened, claiming that we left Queenie to her own devices out of sheer malice. The most outrageous thing was that among what she said was the fact that, and I quote, the whole story of my allergy was highly staged from the beginning. Wow, I was insulted because even after my near-death experience, that little girl still was not convinced of my darn allergy. They demanded money. Just as you read it, they demanded an amount of money such that we would be forced to sell the house in order to pay it. And I know there's something subliminal there, telling us that we must vacate the house that she could never have. These were extremely boring conversations and took up a lot of our work time. The more time passed, and the more we felt that the last camping trip had gone out with the worst possible scenario ever. But my husband did not let us succumb to such thoughts. No, you see, he told me that we just wanted to have a normal outing, and it was because of Queenie that all this happened. The next thing that happened was quite tragic, as Queenie and her mother bit off more than they could chew. I say that because we had this perfect alibi about my allergy, since, I don't know, the hospital we went to had a test on what I ate, and there, we managed to bring our lunch boxes, which had chicken and beef in different quantities, so they could prove that our food was adulterated. Also, from the call history on our phone, it turned out that we had tried to contact Queenie, but she had left her phone in our car. It was a bit low for her to lie that we had originally invited her on the trip, but the lie, it just gradually fell through. While it seemed like our alibi might be a little shaky, the truth was that it was more solid than the one they were giving, and it was not long before the final verdict came in. It was a crude outcome, as we managed to win in the end, but that was a sour note. It was my husband who set the terms and compensation in case we won the trial. He wanted to make a restraining order against his mother and sister, and when this was said, I could see his mother's face breaking into 1,000 pieces. It's not nice when a person talks badly to their own mom, but to have a document stating that she cannot be within a certain distance, I think, well, that's a lot. The one I don't feel bad for is Queenie, who was a huge pain in the butt during the trials because of her unstoppable thirst to be confrontational jerk. She really wanted to take some sort of stupid revenge on us. Even though the best outcome she could have done that day was to just stand around and wait for us to come back. Or even less, since none of that would have ever happened if she had not changed the food she wasn't supposed to touch. Or even if she had shown up, well, for the trip at all. I really wanted to teach that little brat a lesson so that she would leave us all alone once and for all. I feel that my text is taking another direction and it no longer goes according to how sorry I felt at the beginning, but hey, that's life. We can't control other people, but at least we can duck with their patience from time to time, especially when you're not really, welcome at all. Now, my husband and I are waiting for the new date that we mapped out for ourselves to go camping alone. I recently checked Queenie's Instagram again and noticed two things. One, a post she made about pictures she took in the area, but with an angler-laden caption saying this. This was the only nice thing about this day. People can be diabolical, trust me. Ugh, hypocrisy at its finest, ladies and gentlemen. The other thing is that her story she keeps stating with how she developed depression because of her family. When I see those posts, I can't help the urge. I have to report her account or throw her a text that'll make everyone find out the whole truth. But my husband says, hey, it's not worth it, babe. And I know he's right. For now, we can only wait for when our next romantic outing will be. I feel like it'll be the best one yet, where not only will we not have unwanted people, but when we return, we'll know that we still don't have them by our side. Okay, to be honest with you guys, I was feeling horrible for the sister-in-law until the point where she said that she was the one responsible for mixing up the food, and then I basically lost all respect for her because every single thing that went wrong was all because she decided to not believe in a food allergy. I don't know if you guys know how important food allergies can be. Only reason I know is because I'm allergic to peanuts, and I can only imagine what somebody would do mixing peanuts into my food. I mean, why? Well, it looks like the sister-in-law of the story learned the hard way. Let me know in the comment section, what food are you allergic to? I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. If you did, smash that like button, subscribe to the channel for daily videos. I'll see you guys in the next one. And just remember, it's cool to be kind. See ya.